Again, I'm Donna Miller, President and founder of C3 Workplace. At C3 Workplace, we provide back office support, advanced educational programs, and office and meeting space to help you start and grow your business. We do these webinars on a regular basis, and they certainly fall under the category of education, and we're delighted that you could be here to join us. A little bit of housekeeping to start off with. You are all muted, so if you have any questions, you've got a chat window. Tommy and I will monitor that chat window throughout the webinar, and if you have any questions, feel free to chime in. We did get questions from many of you and comments before the webinar, and we're going to do our best to wind everything in and answer everybody's questions, but we're all grown-ups and we all know that it's impossible to please everyone. So if we miss something, we'll give you our contact information and you can reach out.
Absolutely.
So we are recording the webinar, and you are muted. Use your chat window for any questions that you might have. So what I thought we'd start off with, today we're going to be talking about behavior planning. And I wanted to just start off with, we had a nice crowd register for this webinar. So, Tommy, what I thought we might do is just start off by kind of telling our stories, tell a little bit about our story. So for me, for those of you who don't know me, about 20 years ago, I opened a company. At that time, the brand was Above and Beyond. Over the course of my 20 years, I've expanded several times within my Montclair location. 3 years ago, I rebranded and renovated Montclair. I opened a second location in Sparta. And again, as I said at the opening, we provide back office support, education, and space to help companies start and grow. And now I'm at the point where I have a multi-location organization, and I've built an organization that will run by itself. In fact, if you're one of my blog followers, you know that I'm about to jump on a plane and then in an RV and visit some national parks. But I built a team and I built an organization. And so every time that I am teaching or working with my clients, really it's great because what I'm doing is helping them to solve problems that I've actually solved for myself. And Tommy, we've been collaborating on this program for a while, and I know you have a similar kind of artist to business owner story. So tell our participants today a little bit about your story.
I like the way you put that. I've spent the last 26 years as an entertainer, speaker, trainer, on the road, always going. And recently I put together Toolbox Talent Was. Through the years I've met so many people who are just so talented. They're either great speakers, they're great trainers, they're great entertainers. And I decided that it was time for me to take a step back, be the business owner, and provide these speakers and trainers and entertainers to the corporate world. We also provide speakers, trainers, and entertainers for private events as well. But, that's what was my step, was going from solopreneur, entrepreneur, to business owner. And literally, the greatest thing about this is the steps that we've taken to become this business owner, and literally how I have created my own money throughout the years by myself, and now how I've decided to have other people out there creating money for me and my business as well. So it's quite the step.
That's great, and I wonder how many people on the webinar today can relate to the notion of having to produce money and at the same time trying to do it all. Talk to us a little bit about that, Tommy.
It makes me smile here. When you're, if you're a small business owner, solopreneur, whatever it might be, trying to do it all. I think that says it all. I can't tell you how I literally would answer the phones, do the marketing, do the sales, reach out to the people, customer relations, admin, finance. Listen, if there was a hat to be worn throughout my career, I wore them all. And for the longest time, I really enjoyed it. It was me. I enjoyed being a solopreneur. Didn't know much about collaborating. I really didn't even know there was other people out there who could help me. It's just all I knew. So my focus was pretty much based on survival. If it needed to be done, it had to be done. And that's pretty much what I did. But we all know it is very challenging to have to do it all, or even the words trying to do it all. When you think about it, if you're a small business owner, you must do it all. So let's think about it that way. I know you can say trying to do it all, and if you're not pulling it off, that's what we're going to talk about today, that you must do it all and there is a better way of doing it all. So we'll talk that in a little bit.
Well, you know, I think one of the things that we do well through certainly what C3 does and the Earn More program is, even though it's just you, the reality is, I remember seeing an organizational chart for the first time with, you know, me all over it, and boy, could I relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is, I believe that as a solopreneur or a small business owner, the beginning of creating an organization that runs itself is just that, thinking like an organization. And I know, Tommy, you've gone through some of these changes, and I think for you, it started with, you know, you often talk about more, better, different, and be, believe, behave, become. So, so before we get into the meat of it, let's talk about, it's kind of a little bit of almost head trash or the tapes that play in our head that maybe aren't serving us so well anymore.
Well, the one thing about being a solopreneur is you're your own boss. So everything you tell yourself, you have the discipline to actually pull it off. You know, and it's funny. As I went through, there was years I used to joke about it and say, if I had me as an employee, I would fire myself. And literally, I had to learn how to put this all together and become a businessman. And literally, I made the day. I remember I stood up and I baptized myself a businessman, not just an artist, not just an entertainer. I had to baptize myself a businessman. That I had a company. This is my company here. And we were laughing yesterday, Donna, when you put up this slide, that if these were all little hats, it would be very funny how we can look at it and that we all wear these hats. So let's talk about more, better, different. You know, if we look at our business and you're sitting there today and you have a pen and paper in front of you, I always look at it like this. Be, do, have. You have to be before you can do. You have to do before you can have. So there's the challenge. What is it you want? Who do you have to be? And what do you have to do to get it? And a little word that I always use is more, better, different. Those three words. What would you want more of? What would you like to be better? And what would you like to be different in your business? Those three words can really transform you and your business. So what do you want more of? What would you like to be better? And what would you like to be different with your business? And we can discuss that today.
Right. And, you know, the reality is owning a business, you do have to do it all. But the reality is the beautiful thing about having a business today is there are so many ways for you to get help without relinquishing control, without spending exorbitant amounts of money, because so many people are in business for themselves. So to me, there are always four pillars of business ownership, and this org chart kind of represents that. You've got the CEO, and that's kind of strategy. You know, let's drive the business forward. What's that going to be? Your CFO, those are your finances. You, as a business owner, cannot relinquish control, but you can delegate tasks. But you have to have a level of financial literacy that helps you to make decisions. You've got your COO. I mean, how does the company operate? What are the new things, and, you know, what's the R&D? I mean, even as a service-oriented company, there's always a component of R&D, because the truth is, once you find the sweet spot of what works for your business, guess what? You'll have to find a new one in 6 months or a year. It never stays the same. Companies don't just go along a platform. They're going up, they're going across, or they're going down. So you constantly have to be in, whether you want to call it research and development, or maybe it's even professional development.
Very important. You know, personal growth always precedes professional growth. So you have to find out where you are. But research and development is the one spot that I really thought about where most people don't connect. Are you creating a new service that you can add to your company? Are you creating new products that you can sell? It's a constant, never-ending process when you're a small business owner. So I looked at all the other hats. That's the one I think most people don't really get a good look at, don't take a good look at. Am I researching and developing what can help the company grow?
Right, right. And the fourth pillar here is your CMO, your marketing, which is really kind of where we're going to spend most of our time today talking about, because I think it's the thing that most people feel, if I could spend more time in new business development, I would have better results. And the truth is, it might be time, or it might be what you're actually doing within those marketing efforts. So this is one of the things we talk to our Earn More students about a lot, is schizophrenia.
Yeah.
You know, the truth is there are so many ways to market your business, and that is a double-edged sword. I don't believe that you can do everything well. I believe that you have to come up with a marketing plan that has variety, consistency, and frequency. And you have to avoid what I like to refer to as the shiny object syndrome. You can't do the latest and greatest, you know, jump in and jump out. That's not going to produce results. In fact, you did a discovery call with a client today. Where did that client come from, and what was the time length?
Well, in December, what I call no-fee talks. I do my marketing by going out live and doing no-fee talks. So I did a presentation at a Rotary. It went over well. I got a nice testimonial at it, and the reason I say no fee, and this might help you as well, is there is a charge. I want everybody's emails, and I want to be able to connect with them. So I do charge. I don't charge money, but I get something in return, so I call it a no-fee talk. Person that called me last week, they saw me last December. So it took 7 months for that marketing to kick in where somebody said, hey, why don't you give Tommy a call? So, yeah.
Right. And so in the meantime, he's nurturing that lead through his email marketing, through his social media posts, and we'll talk about all this. But the point I want to make, you know, at this point in the webinar is you can't do it all. Stop trying to do it all. And, you know, you need to figure out exactly which activities are going to work well for you. I am almost a preacher about finding the niches for your business where you can mark. So, Tommy, you know, we've seen this throughout the Earn More program, and we're going to get into target marketing a little bit, but we hear this all the time from participants, and in fact, in the pre-questions, we got a lot of people who are challenged with focus.
Yeah.
How has that affected you?
Well, what I realized over through the years of learning with people, what you focus, you get more of. So when you start to really get laser focused on what it is you want, so the first thing you have to really discover is what is it you want, who do you want to connect with, where do these people hang out, you know, what do they act like, who knows them. We'll go through the whole networking process, but when you can focus on your niche, for instance, I'll give you an example of what I do. I am looking for, let's say, shy people, people who spend most of their time behind the computer, don't want to be the face of the business, yet they need to be. I do a lot of work with presentation skills, how to get your message out, how to be compelling, and how to be memorable. Now, think about someone in the IT who really just wants to work behind the computer, or let's say maybe it would fall into an accounting or a financial person. They really don't want to be out front, yet they need to be. So my niche is people who are shy, don't want to stand up, and who need to be the face of the business. So when you think about it that way, that's how I look at it. That's how I find people. And it usually falls into those categories of financial planners, IT people, people who really don't like standing out front.
Right. And, you know, the thing about focus and getting clear on your target market, and it goes deeper than target market. It really does go to niches, because there are so many people out there selling so many different things that you have to find out where it is that you can be a big fish in a small pond, because if you want to get the best results, that's the way to do it. I always tell the story of I was at a women's conference and I saw a woman speak who had worked on Obama's original election campaign. And they realized that if they did not win the Iowa caucus, they were dead in the water. And by the way, this is not a political commentary, it's just a story. Let me just put that disclaimer out there. So the campaign managers knew if they didn't win Iowa, that was it. So if someone came to them and said, we can cure cancer, they said, great, but will it help us win Iowa? So the goal for us as business owners is to figure out what is our Iowa. And that Iowa can be comprised of many different things. And when we talk about niches and target marketing, and we're going to kind of spend a little time here, it's specific industries, it's specific demographics, and if anyone on the webinar has heard me speak, and I know we have some past Earn More participants on the webinar and some future Earn More participants on the webinar, and those people know that a prerequisite is to watch the Simon Sinek video on how great leaders inspire action. And Simon Sinek talks about leading with your why. You need to figure out your why, and this is something that happened for me as a business owner. I say this, I unintentionally opened a values-driven company. And then, many years into it, and you open your company. When I first opened my company, my goal was to retire when I'm 50. I'm now years north of that, and now I don't want to retire. I mean, I'm about to take a 3-week trip while my company runs itself. Why would I retire? But the reality is, I started to about, let's see, I'm 21 years. I would say about 13, 14 years in, I started to think, gee, I can turn this into something that makes money without me. So what do I really want to be when I grow up, which I don't actually plan on doing, but you all know what I mean. And I started to do some soul searching. I've always been a student throughout owning my business. I talked about R&D, and that's certainly part of my R&D is being a student. So having unintentionally opened this values-driven company, I decided that it was time for a rebrand. And in part of my rebranding process, we looked at who are we, what do we do, what do we stand for, where are we going? I mean, this is some mission, values, vision stuff. Because what Simon Sinek in his TED Talk says, that I completely agree with, is people do business with why you do what you do, not necessarily what you do. So as you start to define your target message, you really have to get clear on what your why is. And here's one thing I know for sure. Money is absolutely, categorically not a why. Money is a result of your why. So for me, as an organization, over these 20 years, I have helped well over 1,200 companies to start and grow. Those are the ones that actually became clients. I probably could double or triple that number. So my values are that, and this is the C3 of C3 Workplace, stands for Connect, Collaborate, Community. So my why is I believe in the power of collaboration. Tommy and I, our two companies, have been collaborating. We're both gaining success from that. So I want to model collaboration for people. Their companies grow, my companies grow, and through those connections and that collaboration, our success will spill into the communities that we live in. I want to be a force for good, and that's my why. And as I have gotten clearer on my why, guess what? Exactly those people are walking into my life, and my business has grown exponentially. Did I say it right?
Exponentially. There you go.
Math wasn't my thing. So getting clear on your why, there's I don't know, Tommy, is it a magnetism, a charisma? Talk to us a little bit about this.
Well, when you have a big enough why, it gets you up early in the morning, it keeps you up late. It's that thing that makes your heart pound, gets you excited. You live for your why. It's what drives you. Everyone in the world, everyone in life needs a driving force. So your why becomes your driving force. Again, what gets you up early, what keeps you up late. It's so exciting. A little bit about my why. I never looked at my why. I just did. I knew this is what I was doing, so I just did. I never stopped. As the old saying is, you can't see the picture when you're inside the frame. So when I stopped and I started collaborating with people, I realized that my why, my driving force is I love people, always have loved people. So if I could do anything to make them smile, help them, help their business, anything that changes their life in turn, makes them feel better, that's what I want to do. So my why, generally every day, is to make someone feel better. And to me, what I couldn't ask for more. So that's my why, and that's why I do what I do. So what is your why, and has it become your driving force, the drive behind you personally and the drive behind your business? And everybody needs that drive.
Right, and I really believe, my last blog that went out, I think yesterday, one of my first points is, passion is not a business plan. And people say, oh, you need passion. Yes, you do, but to me, your why is how you monetize your passion, because at the end of the day, I'm in business to make money. I'm in business so that I have more money to do good in the world, and, of course, to, and my mortgage, which is always a nice thing.
As we're talking about money, it's just on my mind, so I want to throw it in there. We talk about earning more and more, better, different. Realistically, what is money? Money is a result. Money is the result of a focused, strategic plan. And the question that we hold people to accountable to, are you working the plan? You know, that's what has to happen. Money that, you know, doesn't just show up. It's even the law of attraction as we talk about it. You can send that energy out, but you have to take the action to go and get it. So really it is. It's strategic planning leads to money.
Right. Because if it's in your head, it's an idea. If it's on paper, it's a plan. So let's talk a little specifically about some of the exercises we encourage people to do through the Earn More program in the work of defining your target market, which ultimately leads to the activities that lead to the revenue. I always start with data. A great gal that participated in one of our rounds, I used to say data, and she would cringe. And she now, Amy, she now reaches out to me about how much she loves data and the power of data. So if you're struggling to figure out what your target market or your niche is, here's an exercise for you. I want you to create an Excel spreadsheet, and I want you to list all your clients down the left column, and your current clients, and maybe your clients over the, you know, depending upon how many clients you had and how long you've been in business, but, you know, get a good solid 50 clients on a sheet. And then across the spreadsheet in columns, I want you to start to track information about those clients. What type of industry? What title was the decision maker? How big is the company? Is there geography involved? What was the age of the decision maker? What's the industry? You need to plot out what I like to refer to as the DNA of your clients. So I remember talking to a guy one time, and he said, well, you know, typically my clients drive expensive cars. That's a DNA factor. So, you know, you're a golf course kind of guy. So plot your clients on a spreadsheet, and you're going to analyze this, and this is kind of a living document. Where did that client come from? Really important piece of information. Here at C3, every time we get a phone call, and praise God, we get lots of new leads every day, thank you for calling, what's your name, what's your phone number, what's your email, and by the way, how did you hear about us? Now, the reality is with all the marketing we do, how they heard about us is typically the tipping point. So, you know, it's one of the things we need to measure. Now, we had an interesting situation in our last round of Earn More when someone did this. Tell the group about what happened with Laurel.
Well, Laurel was sitting during the mastermind portion of the group, and we were all together. We were jamming, thinking, throwing ideas around. And the power behind the mastermind, and why we always talk about the mastermind, when you get two people together and they have an idea each, it actually creates a third idea. So we went through this mastermind group, and Laurel started to hear things, and we could see the light going on. And she had this tremendous database that she could look back into and see who she worked with, who she had success with, and she just literally came out in one day and was just like, wow, I figured it out. I know my ideal client. She started to focus on the people in the database that would be her ideal client, and literally she just sent us a note, I guess it's about a month ago now, that her business has gone up over 100% since she discovered this in her database. So yes, it's all there in front of you. If you work with the data, it's funny, I never put the two together, database, right? It's kind of funny. There's where the data is. Go back, look through it. Who did you work with in the past? How much did they pay you? Why did they pay you? Start asking yourself better questions. If you want better answers on how to get clients, ask yourself better questions, and the data does that for you. Right,
and the other thing that happened with Laurel was, and I know she'd be fine with me mentioning her name, so Laurel Bernstein is past president of the New Jersey Association of Women Business Owners. She spent a lot of time marketing to women because that's where she thought her why was. Good reason. But it turns out when she did this analysis, the majority of her clients were men, and the majority of her clients were in one industry. So when Tommy says she doubled her business by using her circle of influence, which we're going to get to in just a second, and by understanding exactly where her services fit best.
Exactly.
And so when we talk about target marketing and niche marketing, it really has to start with why are you doing what you're doing, because who's going to connect with that? So who's going to share your why? And it's absolutely looking at your existing data and DNA. And through those things, you can start to develop verticals. What are the specific industries or demographics that you're going to go after to create better results? And once you start to get clear on your target market, we want you to take it up a notch. When we work in the Earn More program, I always say to people, once you get clear on your target market, what I want to encourage you to do is take it up a notch to your referral sources. Tommy, explain kind of some examples of where that comes in and how that works.
Well, we build these referrals, and a lot of time it's people that we've worked with in the past who will give a testimonial, who will stand up for us, as I like to call them. These are the people in my life who will champion for me. I always have worked hard, and I've done this since the first day I've gotten in business was, a friend of mine had suggested to me, he always said, it's never about the first gig, it's always what you get from that gig. So that's always stuck in my mind on, if I do a good job here, these people here watching me will become my referral sources. So you never know where you're presenting, what you're doing, where you're talking, who will possibly become your referral source. Again, it comes down to people who connect with you on a personal level. You build a relationship. Then they like what you do and what you've done for them, and they'll be more than glad to say, hey, I just had Tommy in here. He did a fantastic job. I suggest you give Tommy a call. And it's just happened today for me as well. This is where you find these referrals. It's always about going out and doing a good job. You can't really so much ask for a referral. People will give referrals. Now, if someone you connect with, you build a relationship, yeah, then you can ask for a referral. But literally, if you've done nothing, no one's seen what you've done, how are you going to get that referral? So that's where we build it up from.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the other thing that we always encourage people to do is to build a practice of asking for referrals, because I know that when I'm teaching a course, and I imagine if I asked all of you to tell me where is your greatest source of new business, in my experience, the vast majority of you are going to say referral. Because a lot of what we do, especially because so many of the people we work with are professional service firms, that's kind of a trusted advisor, so you're going to get referrals. So here's a little tip for you on asking for referrals. What we do is when we sign a client, whether they're signing up for office space, whether they're signing up for administrative support, or maybe they're signing up for the Earn More program. When we're signing them up, I have an agreement, and I sign up and I say to them, you know, most of my business comes from referral. Would it be okay if I reached out to you maybe in 2 months to see if there are other people you know that I should talk to? Because, you know, we're new in our relationship, so I want you to feel comfortable giving me a referral. So basically what you're doing is you're teeing up the ask, which, you know, we use that strategy a lot in our marketing efforts. So, and what I've had most of the time is they tell me right then people that I should talk to. So your referral sources are going to be your existing clients. That's your number one. So when you went back and you made that spreadsheet of your 50 or so clients, another component that you want to list on that spreadsheet is, have they been a referral source? Because ultimately, we all know our clients are kind of A, B, C, and why did I ever take that job, D. So, you know, this data has multiple purposes, as honestly everything you do in your business should. So referral sources are really important. The 80-20 rule. I think you've probably heard of this, but the 80-20 rule in this area to me means 20% of what I do is going to produce 80% of my results. So the reality is your job as a business owner, and we help you if you want in the Earn More program, is to figure out what your 20% is. Tommy, you talked about no-fee talk.
Right.
Why is that part of your 20%?
Well, it makes it specific. Again, if you're going to do specific marketing, you can do 20% because you're focused. Everything's condensed. It's not just throwing it out and saying, hey, let's see what happens and what goes on. You know, when the budget you would have to do to just throw things out there in your marketing, it would be tremendous. So really what you do is you focus in, you put laser focusing on the 20% of what you're going to do. Let's put it this way. We only have so many hours in a day, and all we can do is take care of the activities we need to do. So when you have that 20% down and you know what it is, it really eases everything up for you going forward.
Absolutely. And for me, I've figured out my 20% is I work on strategy, I work on mentoring, and that's really important because I have a team that I need to raise up and I need to be available to them. Like Tommy, one of my core behaviors is speaking, and one of my core behaviors is finding ways to collaborate, which is something we talk about as a strategy. So one of the reasons, there are many reasons, that you're going to find a niche and you're going to decide on verticals and you're going to analyze your data and see where that is because a solid strategy for earning more is to become a thought leader within that niche.
Yeah. You know, being a thought leader, being a guru, the go-to guy, I often talk about this in marketing. When you become Seth Godin wrote a book called The Purple Cow, one of the favorite things I ever heard. And really what it was about was how do you become the purple cow? How do you stand out amongst other people? And how would you stand out? If you were the only purple cow on the field, everybody would stop and say, wow, look, a purple cow. So we talk about that a lot, that Seth Godin book, The Purple Cow. How do you become a thought leader where people are coming to you, your skills, your talents? People want to learn from you. They want to know from you. And really that comes down from building this circle of influence where people literally say, I saw Tommy speak, you should learn from him. I saw Donna putting together a business plan for someone, it was fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm going to come back to circle of influence because it served me really well. And your circle of influence, you need to sit at the table with the people who are in front of the people that you want to be in front of to create collaborative initiatives and also incorporate the concept of being a go-giver. There's a book called The Go-Giver. I should know the author. I don't off the top of my head, but you can Google it. You know, I grew up in a kind of a 5-kid, blue-collar family. You needed to be a go-getter. And so I did become a go-getter, but the reality is I have transformed into a go-giver because when I talked about values earlier on, my belief is that the more I give, the more I get. And it completely works for me. And that's how I build my circle of influence, and all these collaborations are based on that same thing. And as I have figured out the right niche, figured out the right marketing mix, figured out what my 20% is, my organization, we're all moving in the same direction. And I want to tell you one of my favorite thought leadership stories, which is my Small Business Week celebration. Once I rebranded to C3, we decided each week we would celebrate Small Business Week. I firmly believe small business, that's you, are what's going to turn the economy around, and I think to a great extent we're starting to see that happen. And you've seen big players get on this. You know, you've got American Express, and you've got, you know, Shop Local. So we decided to do a Small Business Week celebration. In 2014, the way I did that was I held educational or networking events in both my locations every day. And by Friday of that week, as I've said to many people, the building wasn't tall enough to jump off of, and I thought, what am I trying to do? So, look, refine, strategize. So I decided that I wanted to do more of a half-day event and create a panel of experts. And, you know, I'm pulling from my own community, and these are like-minded people. We've been collaborating in other ways. And I reached out, and I made a few phone calls. Well, Small Business Week 2015 had a panel of 10 amazing speakers. Fairleigh Dickinson University sponsored it, and the Rothman Institute hosted it. Constant Contact was a sponsor, and we had nearly 100 people show up, and it was a fabulous, living, breathing example of working your circle of influence. I was good friends with the regional director at Constant Contact. Collaboration, we all work together, and the concept of being a go-giver. And it absolutely positioned me and the people who participated as thought leaders. And we all were able to elevate our stature or how people viewed us. Now, you can't do that, I can't do that in a big way geographically. So I have to focus right here and be a bigger fish in a smaller pond, and that's serving me well. So you'll see almost everything that C3 does is a collaborative effort in some way or another. In fact, many of you are members of the Morris County Chamber of Commerce, and you know that they have been collaborating with us on the Earn More program because it really does transform businesses. And, you know, C3 Workplace and the Chamber, we share the core value, the why of wanting to help small businesses succeed. So that is why target marketing is so important, because you can't be a thought leader in a big ocean.
Yeah, and you know, I was just thinking, most people work from a lack mentality, and they don't want to share, they don't want to give, they're afraid if I give too much, they're going to learn too much, they're going to pass me up. But if you work out of an abundant mentality and you realize that there's more than enough to go around, you will start to collaborate, you'll be that go-giver. There is more than enough for everyone. When we collaborate, man, oh man, does it build a bigger team, a bigger universe, bigger everything we need. So I always looked at it that way. And I'm so glad I got to collaborate with you as well, Donna. And when I went that day, I went from being a solopreneur to being in a room at a college full of business owners, you know, and I was part of them, sharing ideas and sharing thoughts and just sharing challenges amongst others. What a great relief that was for me. So that was a big day for me, and I appreciated it.
No, I'm delighted that you could participate. So the reality is, and many of the comments that came in preparation for the webinar talked about, what do I do, how much do I invest, how do I know if it's right? And the reality is, you know, I talked at the beginning that your marketing plan would have to have variety, consistency, and frequency. And the reality is, we have to test and measure what we're doing. And we do talk about how this ties into behavior planning. But just like, so these are some of the ways that we can test and measure.
Right.
CRM, for those of you who don't know, is called Customer Relationship Management Software. I happen to use something called Zoho. I know you have something kind of industry-specific.
Yeah, I use something called Ace of Sales, which comes through the National Speakers Association.
And some of you might have heard of Salesforce. These are all CRM systems. You can use Outlook. You can use whatever you want, but the reality is what you need to do is you need to nurture your leads. And CRM is the base for doing that. It's where you'll keep all your contacts. It's where you'll keep track of how you heard about them. My CRM system creates an opportunity funnel, and it gives me some projections, which is really nice, allows me to do targeted messaging. But the other thing about CRM, and you can do this in a very low-tech way, you can do it in Outlook, you need to keep notes of your conversations because, you know, Tommy ended up doing a discovery call with somebody who he met 6 months ago. We've been in business a long time. We've got a nice, robust database. Honestly, I probably have, I wouldn't be surprised if I have 10,000 people on my database at this point. There is no way, especially at my age, that I can remember all those conversations. However, when somebody calls me up and I pull open their CRM record and I see that we spoke 9 months ago and here's what we talked about, it's a phenomenal sales tool, and they respect that. So your CRM is the basis for you being able to nurture these leads. One of the ways that we nurture leads is through email marketing. And Tommy, you use a lot of email marketing as well.
Yeah, I do a lot of email marketing. What it does is it keeps me in front of people. Pretty much, I'll send out a little tip from the toolbox, something someone can use in a presentation skill, or maybe a life success skill. If I have an event going on and I feel people should be part of it, it'll be part of my email. I do Toolbox Tuesday, which is pretty much just my way of giving something back, some knowledge that I learned. You know, you send it out there, and it keeps you connected with people. And that's what it comes down to, is how do we keep the connection alive?
Right. And
this is what it works for.
Absolutely. And A/B messaging, and I do believe that email marketing should be part of everyone's marketing toolbox. A/B messaging, what we do at C3 is we will send the exact same email with 2 different subject lines, and that's called A/B testing. So you might find different ways throughout your marketing efforts to measure your ROI. And email marketing also allows you to measure click-throughs and opens, and so you can measure these things. You've got analytics on your website. The analytics on your website will tell you where your traffic is coming from. So just like we have to plot those clients on that spreadsheet of 50, you need to plot these things on a spreadsheet so that you can test and measure. Because what works for me may not be what works for you.
And a simple little thing like a click-through, all it has to do is say in your head is someone showed interest. There was something, a word or a blurb that they saw that, made them say, you know what, maybe this is for me. They maybe didn't take the action and sign up, but that little blurb made them click through. So that person somewhere maybe not be ready now, but now you can highlight that and put it in the notes on your CRM that they did pay attention to what you were doing.
Absolutely. And, that's engagement. And our job is to nurture leads, create sticky relationships so that we can ultimately produce the results that we need. This is the crux.
I want to start with this before you go.
Okay.
I just want to say, this, to me, and I have to say this, is business-changing, life-changing. This is the strategy. I'm a man of quotes, and I have a head full of quotes. And Zig said you can go through life being a wandering generality or a meaningful specific, and the choice is yours. This is one of the paperworks in my life that has made me a meaningful specific. I literally get up and I do this and I do things on purpose. And when Donna shares about this, really focus on this. This is business changing right here.
Yeah, and the reality is this is kind of the central part, the key focus of the Earn More program. It is one page that will take you a lifetime to actually finish. Because it's a dynamic document, it never changes.
Right.
It's never finished. And what we do is we start at the bottom. So what do you want to make? And that starts with a personal budget. What, expenses do you have to cover? What sales do you have to generate to net that amount of money? How many proposals do you have to do based on your close ratio? And here is the behavior. What will go in each of these 4 boxes that will represent your 20%, that will produce 80% of your results, that will make the income flow to the bottom of this chart and help you to earn what it is you need to earn. That is a different answer for every person. And what we've tried to do here today is give you some ideas of how you can get some laser focus, both between target marketing, circle of influence, test and measure, using data. It's a lot of information, and frankly, that's why the Earn More program is 7 months. But by the end of the program, well, actually, it's funny, because when we do the program, for about the first 2 sessions, it's total deer in the headlights. Everybody's overwhelmed. And then there's a breakthrough, and they start to get it, and they start to be able to do the behaviors, and it happens pretty quickly. But this is what we work on throughout the program. Once you figure out what your 4 or 5 behaviors are, and honestly, I don't know that you're going to do more than 4 or 5 well, you're going to see some changes really happen.
And we started on the bottom with I want. When you can focus on what you want with a laser focus, and you want that, and you start to put it out there, you start to do the behaviors. And we say it all the time. Up here on the top is, if there's a question, if your business isn't going, the first thing you have to do is ask yourself, am I doing the behavior it takes me to get what I want? Most people, and what it comes down to when we talk about this and Earn More, is most people write down, it doesn't say I wish I had, it says I want. And then when we work together, we become the people who are willing to do what it takes to get it. So that's why this strategies work so well. When we look back on this, this is the one piece of paper that we always, in our business, Donna's business, my business, Earn More people, they always look back on this over and over and over. It's life-changing.
Absolutely. Now, we've talked a lot about what you do need to do, but I want to take a second, if I can figure out how to do this. Bear with me a moment. Oh, there we go. All right. Tommy, let's talk about what we don't want to do.
Well, we have social media up here, and you're going to have to define what social media means to you. Is it a game? Is it an activity? Is it a pastime? Is it
a form of procrastination?
Yes. In other words, if you're playing Candy Crush, and yeah, it's obviously not one of the activities that's on your marketing page that we just passed up. So again, if social media is part of your marketing, I am very visible on social media. I use it to where people know me, see me, connect with me. Let's face it, you get the right stuff up there and people are clicking on it, and you bounce a few things that are business-oriented, or, hey, I'm doing a talk, or, hey, you want to join me on this webinar. But it's social media. It's social. So we're going to be social. So this is another thing. If this isn't part of your strategy, get off it.
Or outsource it. If it's too, and we're going to kind of talk a little bit about how to stay focused in a second, but social media is not free. That's the point I want to make to you. Your most limited resource is your time.
Right.
You cannot produce time, you can produce money. So just keep it in context and right-size your activity.
Right.
And the other thing is we see a lot of people doing a lot of networking and not doing the follow-up and not having focus. So if you're not going to strategically network with a plan that includes solid follow-up and a clear messaging and target market, you should not be going to 4 networking events a week. So I say this because we see a lot of people that get sucked into this, and I know focus is a challenge for everyone. So they're important activities. I'm not saying don't do them. I'm saying right-size them and do them well.
Yeah, we have networking up there, and we were discussing this earlier. Show up at a networking event on purpose. I know we think it's great, but it's not a social event. It's great that you made friends and you see friends, but I'll tell you, if you're at a networking event and you're hanging with your friends, go to another table. We all fall into that, the comfort zone of hanging with the people we know, but they already know what we're doing, so that's why we've discussed this about networking.
Right. It might be that the better activity for you is speaking or sponsoring. That's one of my core activities more so than networking. So it all comes down to the behavior. What are the activities that you're going to identify that represent your 20%? You've probably heard the concept SMART goals before: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. And can I just say, they can't be in your head? I know I mentioned that before, but it bears repeating. And track, test and measure.
The first word right there is so powerful to me. It means everything in my business, in my life. Specific. I've always been a shiny object kind of guy, so if I'm not doing things on purpose specifically, I'm in trouble. So that's one of the words that. And another thing, when you said behavior plan, one big quick question is, do you have one?
Absolutely.
That's the thing.
So a behavior plan looks like I'm going to go to X number of networking events, I'm going to make X number of phone calls, I'm going to reach out X number of times for collaborative partners, I'm going to spend X hours on social media, and that might be more of a limiting number than a reach number. Rachel Zirkin, who helps C3 Workplace with marketing, one of her personal business development goals is every month she goes after one elephant.
Right.
You might not get it, but you know what? If you go after one elephant a month, that's 24 elephants in 2 years. You got a pretty good chance of actually landing one.
One elephant.
Right. So it's specific goals that you do, you track them, you measure them over time. We had a lot of feedback on focus and how much should I invest and what should I do, what shouldn't I do, how do I stay motivated. So I wanted to talk about a few things that have worked for me, and Tommy, I know you can chime in.
Sure.
And we do work on these throughout the course of the Earn More program, but one of the things, and one question specifically was, what are the top 3 routines successful entrepreneurs practice in controlling, I like that, their behavior to bring them success faster? I think that's a great question, and if I had the actual ironclad answer, we wouldn't be doing these webinars. We'd be on the island already. But
infomercial.
I can absolutely share with you some of the things that have worked for me, and I know Tommy will as well. And I recently saw an article posted, Entrepreneur, 3 strategies for creating a to-do list that almost does itself. You can look that one up on entrepreneur.com. It's a good article. For me, each Sunday night, I get out my calendar and I spend about a half hour looking at my week and plotting everything on my calendar. So this webinar was on my calendar, the prep time for this webinar is on my calendar, the follow-up time, because I will be reaching out to all of you, all of that is on the calendar. You go to a networking event, not only do you have to calendar the networking event, you have to calendar the follow-up time, because very honestly, folks, if you're not going to do the follow-up, don't go to the networking event. So I find calendaring everything to be one of my key success factors for two reasons. I'm a visual person, so I want to see it. And when I plot it on my calendar, I'm much more realistic about how much I can get done, and in all reality, how much I can't get done. So for me, taking that Sunday night prep time to plot it on the calendar is really important for me. And the other thing that I'm doing also is I'm plotting personal things on that calendar. I'm plotting when I'm going to the gym, because that's another success factor for me. And I'd like to say that I'm always fantastic about it, but I'm not. But the reality is I know when I'm taking care of myself physically and spiritually, I am setting myself up for success. Well, what are some of your success factors, Tom?
Well, we talked about, I always remind myself personal growth precedes professional growth. So always take care of the being, which in turn, especially if you're a small business owner, entrepreneur, solopreneur.
Exhausting.
Yeah, it's exhausting, and the being controls the doing. So if you're exhausted, guess what? Your business is exhausted. Your thinking is exhausted. Your action is exhausted. So really, you got to learn how to really pace yourself. One of the ways I do it, and we discovered it together, was I color code my calendar. I see urgencies. I see colors. I see where there's gigs. And I look at it, and if I see too much of one color, and if it's not me actually out making money, I got to look and say and get a balance in there of what I'm doing. Like if I color code networking events blue, and I look and I got 4 blue spaces on my calendar, that's entirely too much. I've got to cut that out. So when I color coded it, it helps me see it visually. Boom, pops out. Too much going on there. Get rid of 2 of them. Get rid of them now. Don't ask any questions. Don't pass go. Do it. And so I really can see what I'm doing.
Right, and when you're blocking things on that calendar, when you've created that behavior plan and you said you're going to make, I don't know, 50 phone calls a week, that's going to have to be blocked on your calendar, because if it's, just kind of a plan in your head, it's not actually going to happen. So calendaring is certainly a big success factor. The other thing, a couple of other things, but as far as sometimes making these activities, these sales calls that we have to do, nobody likes cold calling. It's not easy, but one of the strategies that I use, and I learned it in my Sandler training, is have guts 5 minutes at a time. Just pick up the phone and do it. And it's probably not even 5 minutes, like going to the gym. The hardest part of going to the gym is getting in the car. So pick up the phone, dial the phone, and do what you have to do. And absolutely categorically do the thing you least want to do first thing in the day. I've heard people refer to that as eat the frog.
Sure.
So use a calendar, have guts, do the thing you least want to do first thing in the morning. There are 2 other things that I will add to what I feel are success factors, and then, Tommy, you can chime in with what you want. Stop multitasking. You're not getting more done. You're not. I think that smartphones have made us dumber people, and we really have to figure out a way how to right-size all of that and to focus on what's in front of us. Equally important, you have to take breaks. You can't work 50, 60, 70 hours a week and expect to be strategically and motivationally on when you pick up that call. So part of calendaring is calendaring what I like to call as white space, so that I can step back, take a break, and I know for me, when I take a break, I come back much more effective.
Well, it just made me think about it. It's called living. It's not called working. So working has to enhance your life. We built these businesses, we got into these businesses only as something that's going to enhance our life. It doesn't become our life, it enhances our life. Something we always have to remember.
Absolutely. We work to live, not the other way around. So we are delighted that you were all able to join us on this webinar today. We've mentioned several times the Earn More program. We've got a flyer up on the screen. Tommy talked a lot about, you see it there, be, believe, behave, become.
Yeah. The most important part of it is the belief in yourself, belief in your business, and the behavior that goes behind that. Once you believe in yourself and believe in your business, you will start to behave and become the person who will earn more. So the question we were going to ask is, we don't suppose you might know someone, or you might even be someone who would be interested in having a discovery call with us, where we'll lead you down, we'll ask you the questions you need to ask yourself, to maybe put that light on the head that maybe someone here, someone during the Earn More program, someone in the accountability group would be the person to connect with who would help you and your business grow.
Right. You know, it's so often when we talk about these topics of target marketing and behavior, and the truth is, the things that we teach in the Earn More program are not rocket science, but the reality is you can't, well, let me rephrase that, very difficult to accomplish that in isolation. So the reality is, if you're the kind of person that knows this but isn't quite doing it, this program is possibly something you should consider. And I'll be really honest with you, I think we're about half full. So, you know, we've got 6 seats to fill. It may be for you, it may not be for you. If you think it might be, your next step is to reach out to Tommy or I to schedule what we like to call a discovery call. During that call, we kind of get a sense of where you're at, where you're trying to go, and do we think this program will work for you. I don't believe in hard selling because that's not a win-win.
Really what it comes down to, as Donna had just mentioned, where you are and where you want to go is a gap. This program, the Earn More program, just closes that gap. It slowly closes the gap. It's a process, a consistent, persistent process. But if you don't have a process, then this is definitely the program for you. So once again, we're here for a discovery call. We'll find out where you're at and where you want to go.
It's truly transforming. If you're ready to transform your business, if you're ready to invest some time and some dollars, this can really help you do it. If that's something you want to do, you can contact Tommy or I to schedule that discovery session. And Tommy, would you believe an hour has flown by?
Yes. It was
wow.
And we also know this. It was like drinking water from a fire hose.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot.
A lot of content.
So listen, if there's anything we didn't cover that you want us to answer, even if you don't want to do the discovery call, shoot us an email. We are happy to help you get from where it is you are to where you want to go, whether you're participating or not. So we thank you very much. Watch for my blog posts from the National Park.
Nice. And thanks for being on the call with us. Terrific.
Have a great day, everybody.
Bye now.